Did you know Dump City is played for prisoners in solitary confinement as a form of punishment? Hey everyone, Brento here. Welcome to another episode of Dump City. Before I get too into this here, I'll be sure to activate my auras with my 7890 key. There we go. I got my auras up, so I won't do a whole episode and look like an idiot without my auras, doing, I don't know, incursions. That would be really foolish now, wouldn't it? I've managed to reach level 92. It turns out my build wasn't so bad with my auras in effect. And I got a new spell I'm trying here. Check this out. This is called Ground Slam of Earth Shaking. Watch this. That's a melee attack. Isn't that idiotic? It seems overpowered. That's a transfigured gem. I actually put in Ground Slam and it became this spell, which is really cool. So what's on the show this week? Flask crafting. We're going to talk about wouldn't it be weird if. Okay, well, you'll have to see what that means. And then finally, we're going to do some flask crafting examples. But before we get into that, let's look at the item of the week. It's this armor. Okay, Kraken skin here. I know we got some really amazing armor last week, but it seems like I keep getting armor. I've got like 3 really good 6-link armors, but not a great weapon yet, which is kind of ridiculous. Okay, but maybe you got a similar problem. Maybe you got a good weapon, but you don't have 6-link armor. I could put some suppression on this, spell suppression. It's just a nice armor. And look at all the life on that. That's ridiculous. The runner-up, however, would be this here. Look at this. I can get an extra golem, and my golem's auras get even better. So it seems like that would be quite overpowered. I think I might figure out something with that in the next few episodes if I can get 2 golems out there. I think that would be really cool. But before we get into our crafting of flasks here, let's do more tips for noobs. So one of the first tips we'll go with this week is whenever you gather your essences, be sure to prioritize them in terms of usefulness. The first couple of seasons, I just color coded them. I wanted to go for like a rainbow, but then I'm like hunting down which is, which one's a good one, which is a bad one. In my list, I start in the top left. The top left one is the most useful one for my class. Prioritize them so that later on when you're using some essences for crafting, that the best, you stockpile for the best items at the top of the list, and you just burn out the useless, like the essences for your class at the bottom of the list. This way you're using them all up efficiently. Another tip, if you want to craft, let's say, go to the Karui shores here and talk with Faustus. See what he has here. Gamble for items. Let's say you need, I don't know, evasion boots. You just buy some evasion boots. One of them I'm looking for and specifically is armor and evasion. So let's see if I get one here. See what we get? It's not bad. I could use that as crafting base. So actually, those are just good boots. Wow. Maybe that's a good way to craft. Just go see Faustus and get a nice rolled set of boots, right? Another thing too, let's say you're doing some content and you find that it's a lot of fire, a lot of lightning, or a lot of cold. Combine yourself one of these quartz flasks with one of these maximum resistance flasks of the type and put it on your belt. You'll always want to have at least 2 slots for your flasks that are interchangeable for fights that are very elemental specific. So this combination basically, that's going to make me 5, well, more than that, it'll be combined, it's 10% tougher. And that can make the difference between getting one shot and not getting one shot. So have some max resist flasks combined with a spell suppression flask, and you'll be able to do elemental fights a little bit easier. Next tip is, let's say you're doing your maps here, and you, let's say, haven't found certain unique maps. Okay, don't forget there's these scouting reports, and scouting reports can do other things, but there's this one here that guarantees you're going to get at least one unique map. So if you're missing a unique map, then, use the singular scouting report to find them, right? Just so you can get all your maps done. And then finally, be sure to watch the PoE for Noobs series Crafting Basics before watching this episode. Some of the things I'm going to talk about is going to assume you know the very, very basics before we get into some details here. But without further ado, let's actually get into some crafting of Flask basics here, okay? So when you're doing flasks, they are an important layer of your character's design beyond your normal item stats. Things like glass bore's baubles behave like sharpening stones or armor scraps. They add quality to flasks and tinctures as well. When applied to flasks, if you apply it to a utility flask, it will increase the duration of it. And if you apply baubles to a life flask, it will increase the amount recovered. Same with the mana flask. The higher level an item is, like if you hit Alt and you have a look at it, see these are item level 82 flasks here, the more baubles you're going to need to actually enhance it. In short, having a good set of, upgraded flasks of all types with all the things we're going to do here, you're going to basically gain an extra level in the game. It's that important in terms of the layer of your abilities. It's not just about the skill points you have or the items on your character. These flasks are quite important. Don't underestimate them. They're not an afterthought. There's a reason why I decided to make this its own show, just because I want to really stress the point that if you don't have a good set of flasks, it's gonna cost you a level. You'll get to level 98 instead of level 99, basically. I don't think you'll make it to level 98 in your first season, but maybe you'll go to level 90 instead of just level 89, thanks to your extra flasks. In terms of the utility flasks that I found the most popular, okay, I did a bit of research here. What are the most popular flasks? So the number one most popular one is the Quicksilver Flask. Everyone likes speed. The next most popular one was Silver Flasks. It basically makes you quicker, okay? The next one I found was Divine Life Flask, were the third most popular. These are for classes that use life. Okay, if you don't use life, let's say your energy shield build, this wouldn't be your first choice, but pretty much every other class wants a life flask. Then there's the Sulfur Flask. Here we have a unique one. Increased damage, it's just a nice ability. And the last most popular one is this Granite Flask. This is the fifth most popular one. I don't use it in my build because I have enough armor, and adding 1,500 more armor is like a drop in the bucket. So I don't currently have it on, but I might swap it in later. Those are the top 5 most popular flasks. If you're not using one of those 5s, you might ask yourself, why not? Like, what? Maybe that's your first tip as to how to improve your flasks, is to maybe get one of those inside your belt. In terms of life flasks, there's Divine Life Flasks and there's Eternal Life Flasks. You'll notice that the Eternal Life Flask only has 2,000 life over 2 seconds, but the Divine one's 24 over 3.5. So each one of these has its pros and cons. You'll notice I mentioned the Divine Flask was the more popular one, and that's because if you get a roll on it that gives you instant health recovery, that 2,400 is nicer to have than just the 2,000, because the duration doesn't matter. Okay, but both of these are very good flasks, depending on your rolls, and we'll do one of each and see which one we get, and see which one I fully upgrade based on the rolls we get today in our examples. Without the instant recovery, the Eternal Life Flask is probably better. And she'd always keep a few variants of flasks. Like, I'm going to have one of each, right? Depending on the situation. Depends how rippy a fight is. So the next thing about flasks that you need to know is these, you've probably seen this by now, is Instilling Orbs. Okay, you see how they add an enchantment that will cause it to be used when certain conditions are met? This basically lets you trigger flasks. Okay, you can't use them on life flasks, but utility flasks can use these. Okay, so we'll set these up with triggers, some of these up with triggers before the end of the episode. Ideally, you want them to activate when they're full. There's many conditions they can trigger, but the best one, the most popular one, is to trigger when full. Okay, we may or may not get that today. I'm going to look for that, but there's many options. I think there's over a dozen trigger conditions. So to get that on your first try is unlikely, but the pros are looking for when charges are full. This way, it kind of guarantees you'll have enough charges in the process when they trigger. And we'll look at some examples later in the show. So generally you want to automate at least 3 of your flasks. So these flasks here, I'm going to be putting this overflowing chalice here, a life flask, and I'm going to be putting these utility flasks set up like this. Okay, I want to automate these 3, so the only buttons I have to press are 1s and 2s, or a little less for me to stress about while playing by doing this. So this is the goal of this episode, is to get these fully automated and buffed as well. And then it should make my progression even easier. Another thing that you'll want to do is take note of Enkindling Orbs. Now these cannot be used with a trigger. You either use an Enkindling Orb or an Instilling Orb. These actually give you a big buff on a flask, a utility flask only. And I'll do one example of that with this overflowing chalice later, okay? And you'll see why this one isn't going to be triggered. Enkindling Orbs are basically, if you don't want to automate your flask, but you just want to really buff it to make it much stronger or last longer or gain charges much faster, that's what an Enkindling Orb does. So not as common, but I do have a case here where I want to demonstrate with the sulfur overflowing chalice here, which again I think is a really great item. We'll talk about that in the second half here, how good this is and why it works so nicely. An alchemy orb can get you in the trade league one of these overflowing chalices, and they are quite common. This is solo self-bound I'm playing here. I think I've had a few of these by now. I didn't realize how good this was until I did some research into flasks and how broken this actually is. But when you do your flask crafting, you're gonna want to keep in mind that for life flasks, you want these to be level 83 or higher. So you'll notice these are just level 82. I just haven't found any 83 or higher. So I'm not going to make the perfect life flasks here, but I'm going to make pretty good ones, and they'll last me for a while. Once I, see some level 84s or 85s even, I'll make even better ones. But for life flasks, you want to target level 83 or higher. So keep that in mind. And that gives you the chance for the tier 1 increased charge recovery roll. This cannot get them because these are just level 82. It's a low probability roll, but still, you want to have the option of getting tier 1. If you put a Val Orb on a flask, you actually get plus or minus 10 quality. This is actually something I didn't know until I did a bit more research into flasks for this episode. So after you put your baubles to increase the quality, you can then throw a Val Orb once it's all done to get even more quality. Okay, so because these are level 82 and they're not going to be perfect, this is their ideal candidate for voling afterwards. Therefore, the maximum quality you can get on a flask is actually 30 through crafting means. Okay, you don't have to find a 30 quality flask. You can make them yourself. And finally, for utility flasks, you want to look for eye level 84 or higher, because that gives you the chance for the very roll you see right there, the tier 1 increased duration. Okay, this was another bit of a motivator of why this episode was created, because I wanted to show this, that this is, once I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's a perfectly rolled tier 1. So when you're doing your utility flasks, you want to use base flasks that are at least 84. These ones here are not 84. Haven't had any luck with high-level finds of these types yet. Really bad luck with the silver flasks. It's been a long time since I've seen one. But eventually, I'll find a level 84 plus, and I will do the same process to it as I'm about to do with the Quicksilver flask. So anyways, that's the basics of crafting flasks. We'll do some examples shortly, but before we do that, let's do Wouldn't It Be Weird If? Okay, so this is a new bit I'm going to do. I might even repeat this further on in the series. It's called Wouldn't It Be Weird If? So this is the example of a weird story. And of course, I like to talk about weird stories and be interesting and non-robotic and I don't want to just do Path of Exile. I don't want to just do whatever game I'm covering. I want to talk about other things because who could watch a show this long of just information without a mix of stories, right? So this one's called Wouldn't It Be Weird If? Wouldn't it be weird if Elon Musk were to build a moon hotel only to have it bombarded by heavy space battleships mid construction? What are the odds that really happens? Like, obviously, you would build the moon hotel in a deep depression crater so as to control the airflow and the radiation on the moon and make construction simpler, having less of a because you're gonna have to create a blue sky, right? Because you're gonna have to create an atmosphere outside it. So you would obviously want to build it in a crater where you can control the atmosphere, right? You wouldn't put it outside of a crater where you can't control the atmosphere as easily. When he builds the Moon Hotel, which I predict he will, the targeting of the campaign would go to pilots worldwide. If you're an airplane pilot, that would be the ultimate adrenaline rush to visit the moon, wouldn't it? Would you not want to go visit the moon and visit the 10-star Moon Hotel? The amenities would clearly include a corkscrew water slide that has a 50-foot drop into the pool, but it spirals in the air for several minutes before you land in the pool. It's a 10-star hotel on the moon. Of course it's going to have that. You got to realize, though, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be weird if this hotel got bombarded during construction because no one took Planet X research seriously? During construction, let's say they discover the Anunnaki, right? And they're going to not be happy with humans because we're colonizing the moon now. I think that the hotel would be at risk. What if the hotel only serves people that are under 10 feet tall? You know, Anunnaki are like 20 feet tall, 25 feet. Some of them are 50 feet tall, according to ancient record. And you're going to make a hotel only for humans? Where are the giants going to stay at the hotel? I could see them getting mad and punishing us humans for not making a proper moon hotel. Wouldn't it be weird if a giant moon hotel were built, or a moon hotel were built, and it wasn't made for giants, and then the Anunnaki came and bombarded it? Okay, whatever. Anyways, back to crafting some examples of flasks here, okay? So let's do some example flasks here, just so that it's to show you exactly what can happen. Let's begin with this here, this Quicksilver flask. It's not ready yet. Why? Because it's got no baubles on it. So let's put some baubles on it. I don't have to roll anything on this. I like the roll even though it's only a tier 3, 40% more armor for my class, automated. Yeah, I think that's a good enough roll. Okay, so I'm gonna have to use a lot of baubles on this one, but I don't think I'm gonna ever replace this one. So let's go for it. Let's just load this up with baubles. And there you go. Now look at that. That now lasts 10 seconds. That's ridiculous. I'm going to wait to do a Val Orb on that one, okay? I'm happy with that for now. That's the first craft. Actually, hold on. I forgot to put my Instilling Orb. Okay, when's this going to trigger? Let's see what kind of things we can get on here. I'm never going to take a 7 hit. So this is an example of why you need multiple Instilling Orbs, because this is a ridiculous trigger condition. Okay, so you're going to want to have them whenever I block. I don't know. I don't have a shield on. I want better than this. I don't bleed much. Maybe that one. We'll see how many I have left. I actually want to use, because I have cast 1 damage taken, this will trigger quite regularly, I guess. But if I have enough Instilling Orbs later, I want to have this cast when charge is full. But that's good enough for now. There's an example of some Instilling Orb rolls you can get before you go and, if you only got a 5 or 6 of these and you're like, oh, I'm watching this video, I don't want to burn the last one. Just look at that. I burned 4 of them and didn't get a useful one. But out of the first 4, that's the best one for now. Okay, good enough. Let's do an Enkindling Orb on this Overflowing Chalice. Okay, this one won't trigger because I want to press this one. And I'll show you how this works here. Okay. Look at that. 63% increased effect. Is that a good roll? I think that's not a good roll. Let me just double check here. In the description, there's actually the possible rules for Enkindling Orbs. So this usually ranges from 60 to 70. So that's a below average roll. Is this a good flask? That's not a great flask. Actually, sorry. 99% increased charges gained. That's actually not a bad one. So I'm going to invest a little bit more in Enkindling Orbs. 31% reduced charges. That rolls from 35 to 25. Okay. So 35 would have been the best roll. It's not bad. I'll keep that. Okay. I might add some baubles onto that and corrupt that later, but we'll set that aside. So there you go. You'll notice too that it has gain no charges during effect. But if you also, this is the beauty of the overflowing chalice. The one I highly recommend. The price of these has to go up, or maybe they're just so common that that everyone has one. But I was looking at the top builds, and not enough people are using these. It just doesn't make sense. This is just an amazing thing to put an Enkindling Orb on. Okay, because you want to activate it when you're doing max damage, and it gains no charges during effect of any overflowing chalice flask. So it itself cannot gain charges. So putting an Enkindling Orb on it has no real penalty. Every one of them gains no charges during effect. That's why it's really good to use with this particular flask. I might add baubles to that later, but we'll see. We'll decide on that. Let's now make ourselves a couple of life potions. Okay, again, these are not the ideal eye level 83s. So let's start off with making these magic. That's the first step. Did we get any good rolls? Tier 3. I don't have any critical strikes, so I'm going to re-roll this one here. And I'm just going to keep doing this till I get something nice. Okay, that's terrible. Ooh, that's not bad. Okay, Corrupted Blood. Very nice, very nice. And a tier 1. Oh, wow. Wow, what a nice roll on that one. Okay, so we got instant recovery on a Divine Life Flask. It's 66% reduced amount recovered. Not great, but instant is good. And let's do another one here. This will be our eternal one. Oh, there's a tier 1. Okay, so we'll do a tier 1 roll here with our Orb of Alteration. Wow, that's a lot of life. Lot of life. And it's over 3 seconds, but let's see if we can get an Orb of Augmentation to make that nice. Yeah, I like that. A shock immune one. Tier 1 and a tier 3. Of these two flasks, I already have technically a Corrupted Blood Flask that's lower tier. The thing I don't like about this one is it has low life, so I'm not going to give it much love. I'm going to think about using that further. Of the two, I like the way this Eternal one worked. That's 1,000 life per second and shock immunity. At the very least, this will be a very specific flask used for lightning fights, right? So I will definitely keep this one. Baubles to it next. 4,000 life over 3 seconds. It's only item level 82, but hey, it got some nice rolls. And then finally, let's vol it again, because this isn't the perfect item. Okay, I'm hoping for a positive roll here. Hoping for a positive roll. Okay, let's go with positive. Well, +2. That's above average. I can't complain. So there we go. We made ourselves a nice life flask. This will always be useful. Even if I'm not using this all the time on my character, I will definitely consider swapping this flask in for a lightning fight. Okay, because this gives me immunity to shock. And it's just a ton of life. But I will probably keep this as a main flask for a while too. Okay, and then finally, let's just throw on some Instilling Orbs on our regular old flasks here, because I do want to automate them, and then we'll go do a boss fight shortly. Okay, so here we go. Let's get a good roll on this. I don't know if that's ignited. I don't know. That seems too specific. Let's try this one here. No, Savage Hitch sucks. Okay, there we go. We got one. Used when charges reach full. This is the ideal roll. Okay, so this here will go here. Our overflowing chalice will go here. Our new life flask will go here. And then I'm going to put these, put the guard skill here, and I'll put this here. Now, honestly, I should re-roll this one here. It kind of sucks. But I like the combination of spell suppression with Ignite for now. Again, if you, it depends on how many Instilling Orbs you have. One of the things I don't like about other people who explain this is they just assume you have infinite resources. And I know a noob player, again, having recently been there, you're going to probably have shortages and all these things. So take what you can get. Be realistic about what you have, okay? And maybe this is one, like maybe this is worth 2 different flasks. I am probably going to keep this quartz flask, for example, and use it for a fight that has fire damage. Okay, so it will basically be it'll actually combo with this one here. Okay, but then I'll use this one and I'll make it more generic for when charges are full. So that's sort of the strategy with it. Don't waste your Enkindling Orbs and don't waste your Instilling Orbs for a perfect set of only 5 flasks. You should have at least 20 flasks. I have one of each type here. I'm probably going to start throwing out some of them that I never use, but I want to have 20 flasks to pick from, and that would be a good strategy for flasks. So anyways, there you go. That's crafting some flasks and some examples, and I'm going to find a tier 14 boss here, one of the tough ones, and I'll show you how to fight that shortly. So I'll see you soon. Okay, I've cleared the orchard map and we're going to fight the goddess soon here. But before we do, I just want to show a few things here. In between, I added a few more rerolls on some of these flasks, a little bit more time to think about it. Here I changed the Enkindling Orb on the overflowing chalice to give 77% increased charge recovery. So the best roll you can get is 80%. So that's a higher valued roll. That's one of the things you can look for in an Enkindling Orb. At least go for a good roll, right? The triggers are a little different on these flasks here. One thing that I thought about too is if you have a few flasks, why not put the Instilling Orb on each one and then customize the magic to it? I basically re-rolled one of them here, but then I kind of made a couple more here where I used the Orbs of Alterations to get appropriate rolls that match your triggers. Just because the Instilling Orbs are limited and you'll run out of them, and there tends to be a lot of magic crafting reagents. So just a bit of a tip there if you want to have alternate versions, if you have multiple quartz flasks, for example. Travel skill, that's another good trigger. I have this on a few of them. This here too, when an adjacent flask is used, from what I've read, a trigger counts as adjacent. So you don't have to press an adjacent a potion. Like if I put it here, it would activate with me like pressing the life button, or it would activate when charge is full on this spell or on this flask here. So just when an adjacent flask is used, is a little bit more dynamic that way. Okay, so it's not a bad roll as well for Instilling Orbs. So yeah, that's basically what I did here. We'll put these flasks back in here now that we got a nice combo. I like the travel skill's a nice one, especially with Quicksilver, because I'm gonna I'll do a leap anyways, a leap slam, and then I'll just move faster afterwards. So it really lets me boost myself, and I don't have this might even be better than waiting till the charges are full technically. So you can't go wrong with that one. But before we go in and potentially die to one of the hardest bosses there is, some of the fights I'm doing here as the bonus video here is according to Google at least, or Reddit and or other sources, the bosses that are considered to be the toughest in the game. So the boss on this map, the past 2 seasons, I've had complete white fests on the Orchard map. Maybe you're having some issues. You're watching this video to see how it's done. And again, don't forget, a good build is the #1 strategy. If you can't kill this boss in under 5 minutes, you got to relook at your build. All these fights are a bit of a DPS check, okay? So you'll see why this is a tough fight. I'm assuming if you're watching this video and this, the search algorithm worked, and you want to see how to do the goddess here, you've probably died a few times already, so I'll show you how I do it. I might die a few times, I'm not sure. Like, this is a very, very nasty fight. But if you haven't seen it, then you'll, watch it in advance, because you're gonna, and take notes, okay? But one of the most important things for triggering flasks is to have a mage blood. So we're gonna do that first. What better way to do an episode on flasks than to get a mage blood to demonstrate the value of not needing triggers at all. Just put your flasks in and they're permanently in effect. And we got nothing of use here, it appears. Oh well, let's go see the boss here. Oh, one thing here. I cleared up the whole map, and for any tough boss in general, any kind of shrine that's left over, save it up for the bosses on the toughest fights like this. So I'm going to grab this here, and we're going to race over to, I don't have any charges on my flasks because I poured it out and organized my stuff and grabbed these stupid belts. Oh well. So let's see here. This is the goddess. Here we go. Oof. Okay, so one of the things is don't die to these traps. Here, get yourself a golem out. You almost don't want to see the goddess. That's how bad this is. You want to keep the goddess kind of out of range at all times. I actually killed the goddess earlier, just to make sure I could do it and not embarrass myself. So I will, this is how you do it. You don't look at the goddess. This is the secret. Because if you do, she'll kill you. And once you'll see the ability soon. Well, maybe if we're lucky, you won't see the nasty ability that she has. It's like a lifelink thing. You'll notice I'm using a long range attack here. If you have some skills that can go longer range and you don't see her directly, that's even better. Okay, I'd like to get my chalice charged up here. Ooh, what's that? That's not good. Is that the goddess? I think that is the goddess. The idea is to avoid direct eye contact and hit at range as much as you can. You see how I'm doing here? I don't even see the damage I'm doing. Okay. I gotta get a new golem out here. And the thing is, she does that channeling ability. Was that her there? Where is she? Oh, yeah, she is there. Now I'm hoping that she just dies out of view. See, half her health is down. I can go a little bit closer now that I'm a little more confident. I really wish I could get some chalice charges up. Get my war cries going here. I'll probably just smash her now. Here we go. Where is she there? Oh, she's doing the ability. You gotta run. Gotta run. See that channeling ability? That will kill me. And fairly quickly. So you don't want to get hit by that. I could have tried going through it, but where is she now? She's hidden. This is considered one of the tougher fights. Oh, maybe she died. Or maybe she just vanished. Oh, maybe I guess she appeared here. Well, there it is. That's the fight. And that's the way to do it too. Don't get too close, because that channeling ability is awful. Yeah, the trap stopped here, so that's how you do the goddess fight. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode on flasks, and maybe you learned a thing or two. I actually learned a thing or two in doing this episode. I didn't know how to get 22 quality flasks. I didn't know quite a few things until I did some research for this, and I'm less of a noob now, and you're less of a noob now. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next week.